Property Investing Insights, your authority on all things property investing, finance and wealth creation with Right Property Group.
Hello and welcome to Property Investing Insights. Now, this is the podcast where we don't have Phil. So like I say all the time, we've got more meatier stuff here. And this is all about client journeys. And we have today with us a good friend of mine, Luke Smith. Now, Luke's been with us on the journey since 2015. And boy, did we have some doozies in the portfolio and also some real life lessons. But the testimony to this guy is that he has persevered and gone through the thick and thin of property investing, seen the highlights, seen the if you don't plan well, oops, moments, and also now with a young family ready to power ahead, build up a even larger portfolio, and also think of also paying down the portfolio. So Luke, welcome to today's podcast.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Same here, same here. And your journey is something that most clients would look at and say, I can actually do that, right? Because you've got a young family, you've had a few, dare I call them mishaps or miscalculations within the portfolio?
Learning experience.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So before we go down the portfolio path, what do you do and what does the family do?
Sure. So I'm a technical trainer. So I work for an energy company, did my apprenticeship as an electrician, 4 years, started working out in the field on the tools, which was great, but I wanted to transition into a more of a nicer environment, where you got like a flushing toilet, a kitchen. So I decided to get into technical training. So that's where I've ended up ever since and love it there.
Yep. And young family, you've got two young children?
Yeah, I do. So I got Tyler, he's 3.5. And our youngest, Chloe, who's just had her birthday last month. So
Yeah, fantastic.
one.
Fantastic, yeah. And what does the bride do?
So funny enough, it's actually her first day starting a new job. So she calls herself an Amazonian. So she got a job with Amazon looking after the tour groups there.
Yeah, fantastic. So now that you'll hear all about it tonight, and obviously starting a new job, it also resets your borrowing capacity, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
something we've definitely been thinking about.
Yes, yeah. So if we take a step back to when we started, what actually got you started? What was the catalyst to get you started?
Oh, it's a good question. I thought about this coming here this morning. There's actually a few little things that led up to it. Starting off pretty young as an apprentice at 17 years, I've always been a good saver, so I had a bit of money behind me, became a tradesman. My auntie was a conveyancer, so along with my parents, are like, oh, you should actually put your money into a property, buy a property, as most people's parents do back then. Didn't really think much of it. Thought, oh yeah, I'll buy an investment property. The idea at that time was to reduce my tax. That was all the rage. So yeah, I went out, bought a block of land, just out at Southwest Sydney. Built a house on it. Back then, to get the first homeowners grant, I got $7,000 in the early stages. You had to live in the property for 12 months. So built it, moved in. After 12 months, kind of got emotionally attached to it, became my own home, and that's where I stayed for up until 2015 when I decided to move out. So from that, I moved out. I wanted to keep the property. I didn't want to sell it. I always wanted to have something to go back to, a home to go back to. So I started room sharing in Bondi and experiencing and enjoying the Bondi lifestyle. Made some new friends out there and had a great time. But it really wasn't until my dad retired. All through it, he worked really hard. He worked as a building inspector for the council. And when he retired, he was scared about not having an income. Always talked about getting a caravan and traveling. And I'm like, oh, when are you getting your caravan? He's like, oh, I don't have an income coming in anymore. So that really struck me. What am I going to do later on in life? So when I do retire or choose not to work, I've somehow still got money coming in. So, but not just money coming in, but money increases as, inflation increases and everything else. And property just, I don't know, sat well with me.
Yeah. Because you already had a home. If you can call it a home, because that's what it is right now, is home. But you'd actually done the hard yards of actually buying land and building first, right? So
Yeah.
how did you find that process? Were there any learning experiences there?
I had a bit of guidance from my auntie. Like I said, she was a conveyancer and
Mhm.
knew people in the local real estates down there. I did look at a lot of house and land packages. Uh, I just didn't like them. I went and looked at a couple of older properties.
Mhm.
Again, probably looking at it from the wrong side of things as an emotional investment rather than a financial investment. I always try to picture myself living in it, and I just didn't like anything I saw. So I went and looked at some display houses, went, wow, nice and shiny. Um, yeah, so bought the block of land. Then there was a Lily Homes property.
Yep.
So got them building it. Had my dad, who was a building inspector, sort of like help me through the different stages of the building. But yeah, I didn't have too many issues with that one.
Yeah. How long did it take you to build?
It was completed December 2008. I think I started it in 2007 sometime.
Yep. Yeah.
So about
Okay.
a year and a half, maybe all up.
Yeah. And so from there till 2015, you were either living there or then you've moved to Bondi.
Yeah, correct.
Enjoy the nightlife. And,
On
did
the
you do
right side, yeah.
surfing there as well?
Not really.
Mhm.
Not really surfed.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the beach a lot. Lots of swimming.
Yeah.
Just yeah, like I said, made a new group of friends. A lot of the friends were transients from different countries, so everyone was really friendly out there. And yeah, had a couple of friends from back home moved to Bondi as well. Traveling to work wasn't too bad. It was actually, for me, I was working in Liverpool, only about 38 minutes drive in the morning.
Yep.
A little bit longer on the way back.
Mhm.
But yeah, I kind of had my fun out there.
Yeah, yeah. And the catalyst to get started investing obviously was your dad retiring and saying that he hasn't got the income behind him.
Yeah, it actually took him, I think, a cancer scare and a heart attack
Mhm.
to actually give him the kick he needed to say, okay, you could
Yeah.
go at any minute,
Mm.
spend the money, invest it. So he did. He went out and bought a caravan. Hardly seen him since.
Yep.
So that's a few years ago. So they're always traveling, always out in the caravan. So I think that's a great trait.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important, and this is one of the things I keep saying is, lifestyle in the forefront, investing in the background, right? Now, obviously, when we started, we went really hard, and our first property, do you remember where it was and what it was?
Yeah. It was actually a pretty good property. It was a 4-bedroom house in Melton South.
So
we-
Melton's in Victoria?
Yep,
Yep.
in Victoria.
Mhm.
We purchased that for 255,000.
Yeah. Now we're talking 2015, of course. So the same homes we'd probably be buying for 600-700K today. So obviously time does its thing.
Yeah, I mistakenly looked up how much it was worth before coming here, and yeah, last sold for like 570 something thousand a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So you did sell that down. Yeah.
Yeah, I did sell it. I regret selling that one. It was my decision to sell it, and
Mhm.
can only blame myself for doing so. But yeah, at the time, I think I was enjoying the Bondi lifestyle too much.
Mhm.
Being single, I was traveling a lot. I had an opportunity. I was in my 30s, so I'm like, okay, I've always wanted to backpack around Eastern Europe
Mhm.
and do all those sort of things, and I was able to do that.
Mhm.
But I wasn't really focusing too much on putting buffers aside.
Yep.
So the properties were taking care of themselves, but a few repairs come in. I think on that one, the roof was starting to collapse, and it was like a $10,000
Mhm.
bill for that. Yeah, interesting enough, I decided to sell it. At the time, it had risen quite a fair bit.
Yep.
So got it evaluated, put it on the market for 450.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it was almost within weeks of the Royal Commission coming through the banks lending, as well as negative gearing in the headlines of being taken away from investors. So
You made the decision to sell because of your travels.
yeah, I just wanted to have a more comfortable buffer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if we circle back a bit, right? You got started, you got referred over here by your friend, Kobe. Here's a shout out to you.
Mhm.
And we were amazed by his journey, which then gave the trigger for you to get started as well.
Yeah. So again, going back a little bit, I always was interested in property, but just lack of knowledge. We don't have podcasts that we've got today, and the internet was a scary place back then for information. But yeah, I always wanted to accumulate properties, and I always thought you had to pay off your first one first, and once that's paid off, then you can buy another one. It wasn't until I caught up with a school friend, Kobe, that told me he had 3 properties, and it totally blew my mind. It's like, "What? This is what I wanna do. How the hell do you accumulate 3 properties?" Like, we're the same age, got the same sorta industry experience. He's also an electrician. So yeah, and that's where he linked me up with you guys. I came in and, yeah, almost 10 years ago, sat down with a strategist, and lucky enough, without even realizing it, the Davy Court property had some time in the market and got some capital growth.
Yep.
So I was able to extract equity out of there to be able to purchase, and I'd snowballed my purchases quite quickly. I was just amazed that you could do that. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's hit the ground running. This is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I've got the right guidance and professionals behind me to give me the confidence to jump in and do it. Yeah.
Because the paradigm you were brought up with was to pay everything off, right? Before you get anything else, pay this one off before you go to the next one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like that. It's always drilled into you got to pay off your own home,
Yeah,
which is good advice, but it kind of limits you from exploring other ways of investments.
absolutely. And especially when you look at today's purchase, like with the median price being 1 mil in Sydney and other states very close to that mark as well. If you were to take down the path of paying it off, you're very much in your later years of career before you're actually starting to invest. And so you haven't given yourself enough time, right? And the trick and the good thing we had in your portfolio is we started early enough. And we've allowed the market to do what it does. Yes, we've sold down one property. And whilst looking back, it may not look like such a good decision, but it actually was, because it actually gave you back your lifestyle, right? It was, you're not a slave to your portfolio. And moving from the first one, where did we go to the next one?
So yeah, like I said, it took about a year to sell that one because there was so much, I guess, hysteria around the negative gearing, the Royal Commission. So a lot of people did make some good offers. Unfortunately, they didn't have the best savings for that sort of demographic and price range for where I was selling it. So a lot of people rejected. So I did make a profit off that one, which is good. Gave me my buffers, and then started moving on to the next properties. Second one, I think, was Rinto Drive in Eagleby. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was more of a, okay, let's get into this market. We've moved from Victoria, got into Queensland. We were chasing the emerging markets with all of the portfolios because we were putting the baseline in place at this stage, right? And then after Eagleby, what did we do next?
So everything happened quite quickly. Just not to confuse the viewers out there, I bought Melton in Victoria in end of 2015. That was sold 2019. So after I bought that in 2015, in February 2016, I bought 2 properties. So only about 3 months later, I bought Rinto, and I believe it was Brussels.
Brussels, yes.
Yeah, so that was a good one. That was a granny flat development site, so 1,200 block, and the idea of getting that property was to develop a granny flat on it to increase cash flow.
So we bought also a few units in the portfolio. Where were they?
Yep. So one of them was a studio apartment down in Queanbeyan. So I bought that one for about $140,000. So that was more of a cash flow property. So that's doing its thing in the portfolio of increasing the cash flow. And then I also bought another unit in Glenelg.
That's South Australia?
In South Australia, correct. Just in Adelaide there. Really nice property. It was actually 2 streets away from the main marina, beach access, ground level. So I bought that one really well. I'm pretty sure up until this year, during that period of purchasing properties, I think the most expensive one was $287,000.
Yeah.
And that was the one with the granny flat development. So everything under 300,000, quite reasonably.
Yeah. No, and for the listeners, right, this is understanding that this was the price of properties 10 years ago. And naturally it increases in price, especially if you've got the selection right in terms of buying an upswing market. The same properties, if we're spending 800, you dare say, with everything working out, it would have the similar effect that buying a 300K property back 10 years ago has today, because you're looking at increasing population, looking at increasing demand for properties in those areas, and of course, employment hubs all around, right? Now, we had a big learning experience with Brussels where you pull the trigger a bit too early in terms of, without getting the full finance approval, you started the development.
Correct. Yeah.
And that put you out of the market for a little while, and certainly a lot of mindset retraining as well.
Yeah. It was a few different events happened that created that. So yeah, I started the granny flat development. We were going quite aggressively. Like I said, I bought a property in 2015, two in February 2016, one in March 2016, one in June 2016. A couple of them were with the same lender. So when I went to do the granny flat, went for the pre-approval. I was under the impression it was going pretty well. It was sitting with the BDM. The builders of the granny flat called me and said, "Oh, look, we finished our other project earlier. We're happy to get started. Where are you with the lending?" So rang up the mortgage broker. I spoke to one of them. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's all good. It's sitting with the BDM. Hadn't received anything." I did get a bit of a verbal conversation to say, "Yep, I've spoke to him. It's all good. You should have the paperwork by today or tomorrow, at least this week."
Yeah.
So as excited as I spoke to the builder, go, "Good news, got pre-approval, should have paperwork by the end of this week." So they dropped off materials and they started, and things moved pretty quickly. All of a sudden there was a frame, there was cladding, there was a roof. A few weeks go by, I'm constantly, "Hey, I still haven't received paperwork." "Oh, I'll just double check. It should be coming this week, it should be coming next week."
This is to the broker.
To the broker, yeah, and it kept on getting longer and longer, until I got the news that, because I'd got less than 12 months of repayment evidence, they were hesitant to lend me any more. Therefore, I think they were only going to lend me about 60%, and we were going for 90%.
Yep.
That kind of put me in a bit of a bind. Obviously, the builder had missed certain stages of payments. I was just keen to pump it out, and I was keen to let them because I was pretty excited. But yeah, understandably, they weren't too happy, as I would have been in their situation as well. So I was getting pressure on the builder for payment. I was really, really stressed out at that time. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And so how did you navigate out of that?
Hey, Victor, I got a problem. Literally at that point there, I try to do as much as I can on my own. I like doing it as a learning experience, but I just got in a bind. So yeah, I reached out, and you're just like, "Yeah, no worries. This is what we do." So you apply for lending with a personal loan, get that money, get the granny flat sorted. Once it's sorted, then we can refinance under one of the big banks. I did have a little issue with that too. I think one of the banks was doing a good special like interest rate for a personal loan, up to I think maybe it was 80, 100 grand. I can't remember. Went through all the stages with them, filled out all the paperwork. They called me in for an interview with the bank manager. I did that. I went away, tried to follow it up a couple more times. Probably about 3 weeks went by until I'm like, "What's going on?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, you don't have a savings account with us, therefore you don't qualify." Oh, it would have been good to know right in the beginning. But yeah, I think I went with Citibank at the time, got a personal loan, was able to clear the debts with the builder, get that finished, reevaluate one of the big banks and back on track.
Yeah. So you had a clear exit strategy out of the personal loans, and
Yes.
it's not something we would recommend unnecessarily.
No,
That was one way of getting out of the hole.
look, I couldn't see a way out of the hole. I was like, do I have to ask my parents to sell something? But yeah, like the advice from you and your team, just, this is what you need to do to get out and then get you back on track. So
yeah,
thanks
all
for
right. No worries. And so once you've restructured everything, obviously things were smooth sailing.
Yep.
You've then started a family in that time as well. And how did the journey look from there?
Well, I wanted to keep on purchasing property. I didn't want to stop. Again, the Royal Commission coming in made it harder to lend. I was single at the time, just earning one wage. So I was sort of tapped out at my lending, which also meant after my interest-only periods ended, I wasn't able to get the lending I wanted. So I kind of just took a step back and let time do its thing in the market. We had our yearly catch-ups and like, "Can we purchase more property?" Like, just give it more time. Just give it more time. Everything's going well. So yeah, in that period, kind of let the market do its work. Met my wife in 2017. So yeah, went through the dating stage, and we had our first son, Tyler, in 2021. 2022, we got married. 23, we ended up buying our own house. So we were renting. At that point, we'd moved to Cronulla. We were renting out there, had a nice 2-bedroom apartment. Unfortunately, the owner wanted to sell. The only option we had was to move into a 1-bedroom apartment in the same building, which had a bit of a time limit on it when you've got a newborn. But yeah, we were lucky enough to find a great house back in southwest Sydney where we got a lot more for our money. Moved into there. Then last year we had our daughter, Chloe, and now given the time in the market, we're in a really good position where we can start investing again. We've got our family. We know our path of where we want to go. We've got our foundation.
Yep, no, fantastic. And so you've also invested in your super fund as well. So you bought a property in a super fund. Yep. How long ago was that?
2018. I think I did that. Yeah, I set up a self-managed super fund and invested in property. That's been quite a good property. I think the hardest part about investing in property is probably tenants.
Yeah.
I've had some interesting tenants over the years.
Do tell.
Well, where do I start?
Because you had the Granny Flat site itself, you had some insurance mishaps there, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a bit unsure what happened there. One of the lady that was living there, a bit of an elderly lady, wanted to move out. Didn't really tell us, but advertised the property on Facebook Marketplace and ran her own open home and said, "Oh yeah, I'm handing back the keys. This person's going to take over the property now." What's going on? So yeah, that was an interesting one. Before that, in the main house, I like to give people a go. A lot of young people that don't have rental history, so I usually put them on 6 months. Give them a go, get them a bit of rental history. We all got to start somewhere. Had this young girl move into the main house. Her parents went guarantor. Really lovely, no issues. I think in that time she got a boyfriend, ended a relationship. He moved into the house. Then I got a phone call to say that he'd taken an axe to most of the walls, went crazy, got all her clothes, put them in the middle of the lounge room, set them on fire. Did quite significant damage to the house. So that was another one.
What is it covered under insurance?
Insurance, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more of a hassle than anything else when you really look at it, right?
Yeah. Just having a good property manager helps because they take care of a lot of the insurances side of things and filling out the forms and just guiding you through what you need to. So yeah, everything through the insurance. I couldn't do it without insurance. I had another tenant back in the Harrington Park property. That was here under a working visa from Ireland. Got a bit of a weird phone call from one of my neighbours at that property to tell me, I think your tenant's moved out. Got a property manager to go there and doors wide open, keys on the floor and half the stuff's gone.
Okay.
So we locked it up and then the next day the garage was busted open. The rest of their stuff was gone and disappeared. And a lot of these tenants some of these tenants I've inherited as well. One at Rinto Drive. I think there was some sort of agreement with a previous real estate agent that wasn't really concrete, and we couldn't get rid of her. She wasn't paying, but every time we had a court date, which took months to get, she'll put money in the account the day before.
So a professional tenant in that sense. Right? So, and not saying that in any other way, but there are quite a few tenants out there that will work the system, and so you need to understand how the processes work as an investor.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we got rid of her. The one in Caboolture, again, inherited the tenants there in the beginning. They're good, but then relationships break down, and it gets kind of tough. Then new relationships start, and it's not their house. But at the moment, I got all pretty good tenants.
So one of the things that we find when you're investing, right, is to get a bargain. Often you need to inherit some of the problems and find a solution for them, which is what we did in a lot of your properties. Was we inherited some of the problems, right, being the tenant or being the condition of the property, or even settlement times and so forth, right? So it's understanding that opportunity always comes in wrapped up in problems, right? We need to just understand how to peel it like layers of an onion without getting the tears, and be able to get to the opportunity side of it. And it sounds like you've done that in your portfolio. And now we're at the stage where we have sold down one more property, which had done its job. And now we're starting to tilt the portfolio into, okay, let's get some more equity buffers in our behind us, so that we can then start thinking of perhaps the the pay downs, or even getting into a commercial property as the journey unfolds. So let's talk about the property that is sold down, and then we'll talk about the value add property that we've bought recently.
Yeah, so the property I sold down recently, which was a great decision, was the one in Glenelg, the unit.
Yep.
So linked me up with a very good real estate agent down there, Alexi. So he did a great job, did basically a full renovation. It was quite cost effective. He project managed the whole thing. There was literally zero stress.
Yep.
For me, which is great. They moved pretty quick, staged the house. It looked absolutely amazing. Advertised it, had the first open house, I think, on a Saturday. And then I had a written contract by Tuesday with a large deposit, no contingencies, and a lot higher than what I thought I'd get.
Yeah, and it took the money and ran, of course.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that, and this is for you, the audience, is that if you are selling a property and you don't actually have the liquid cash or the propensity to put cash in to do the renovations, a lot of good agents would have facilities in place where they can actually fund the renovation itself within a pre-agreed limit. So there's a funding company that comes in and does the renovation, and when the property is sold, they take their money at that point in time. Did you utilize that, or you haven't utilized it? So you used your own money to do the renovations?
Yeah, I withdrew some money a long time ago out of a property that had done quite well, and just sort of set it in a offset account with interest only. So I wasn't paying any interest. It was just sitting there. So I was able to utilize a little bit of that. And then, once it was sold, just put it back in.
And so one of the lessons we learned from the granny flat saga was that every time there's a bit of equity and you qualify, you're extracting the equity and putting it in the offset account so that you don't get caught out. Plus also it gives you the opportunity to pounce on some really good properties without worrying too much about the financing side of it. Which was the next purchase, right? So we're back in Victoria. So we started the journey in Victoria. We've gone a full circle, and we've tracked the market back into Victoria now. Now, obviously, you couldn't capture the growth phase in Western Australia because you had a young family at that time. But certainly, we're now following the market back into Victoria. And this was a property that, just picked up the phone and said, "Hey, I've got something for you." You had the money ready, as a mature portfolio should. You had extracted a lot of the equity out. So we could go in with a lot of surety, but at the same time, we still wanted to take a bank loan, right? So that was happening in the background.
Yes.
Whereas you had the ability to settle it cash. So that we were able to get into that property without any finance conditions, which is a very powerful place to be. Yeah. So how did that all eventuate in terms of process, and where are we with that property at the moment?
So I think it wasn't long ago, I had one of our regular catch-up meetings, and I was in a really good position to purchase something else. It's funny, there was another property presented to me in Mill Lane, if you remember that.
Yes.
We got that negotiated, got it at a good price. It had potential for an extra dwelling at the back with side access, and then had the contract sent over to me. I'd signed it. The real estate was sending it to the owner, I think, the next day, and unfortunately he passed away. So,
Yeah, I know. Right.
literally just after I signed it, so that went into probate.
So you were not dying to get into a property; they were dying to get out of the property, right?
Yeah, but it did open up a opportunity for another property.
Yeah.
Needed a bit more work, but like you just mentioned earlier, they're the properties that's where you find the value is the inheriting the bad tenants or a property that's a bit worse for wear.
Yep.
This one looked like it had been used to grow some
interesting herbs.
Some interesting herbs. Yeah. I've seen a few of those properties. Holes through the floorboards, mold everywhere.
Yep.
It didn't faze me at all. That sort of stuff. Like I just looked at it as an opportunity at the price point. You linked me with a very good builder up there, or down there, I should say. That was, you'd used previously. Gave me a pretty accurate price point when we were looking at as a potential purchase of how much money I'll need to put into the property. So if I was just to look at it myself, I'd probably go, "Oh, this needs 100 plus grand," but it was only about 35,000 that we needed to put the property in a position where we could put a tenant in.
Yep.
And that's blinds, proper locks. That's like flooring,
bathroom.
full bathroom renovation, landscaping, just everything to make it ready for a tenant.
Yeah.
So got that really well priced.
One of the things when people are doing renovations is that they tend to renovate from their heart rather than their head, and they're not renovating to the demographics in the area. And so often they spend too much on the property and then wonder why it didn't work out, right? So it's important to really divorce the heart from the head when we're doing a renovation, and make sure that you're not overspending, and making sure also that it's got the time factor, right? So you could have everything lined up, but the time factor also is a it does eat into your savings and
It
adds to your
does,
cost. Yeah. So how long did this take you to do?
So I think we settled in that at end of February.
2025?
Yeah, this year.
Mhm.
Or March. Can't remember, so much has happened in the last couple of months. But yeah, I got a tenant in there a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So they viewed the property and then basically they're like, yeah, we're ready to move in the next day. So it was a rush trying to get cleaners and everyone out there to make the property presentable. So I always like to have the property in a state where I would like to see the property when the tenants leave.
Yeah.
So if you give it to them trash, more likely you're going to get it back.
And you'd attract that type of tenant as well, right?
Yeah.
So the presentation of the property and the pricing of the property determines what type of tenant you get, right? So often in areas, if you put the rent up too high, your normal tenants may not apply, but the people with problems may apply. So it's really important to get the tenancy right in terms of presentation and also pricing. Yeah. So journey-wise, right? So you've gone through all this. You started off with a simple property. We've done some buildings. Well, you actually started with building your own, right? So you've already had that experience. If you were to do this all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh, I haven't thought about that question. I'll probably wait until I've got an actual signed contract from the banks before saying yes to builders.
Yep. If it's any consolation, I've done my first development where they lifted the house and put it on drums because it's going to be $12,000 cheaper. It was the most expensive $12,000 I saved.
I think I heard about that story actually. I don't know. It was a hard journey. There was some stressful times. But looking back, I don't know if I would have done too many things different because I think it gave me the appreciation of where I am now by going through those hard stages earlier and coming out the other side. I feel like it's been 10 years now, but more of a seasoned sort of investor that have had those hard times. Interest rates going up, interest rates going down, good tenants, bad tenants. So I think it's given me a lot of experience, especially over the 10 years. And you do need that time to get that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've gone through, we mentioned interest rates, right? So you've gone through with a larger portfolio into the lower interest rates over COVID and then come out at 6.5%. How did you navigate that?
Like I said early on, I realized the power of having buffers. So I had the buffers in place. It's funny, when interest rates came down, I locked them in quite low, like in the 2%. And then all of a sudden it came to tax time and I owed them money.
Yeah.
What? Usually I'm getting a return here.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they jumped up, I kind of like planned for it to jump up, built up a good buffer. You just got to
Plan to be proactive, isn't it? You plan ahead.
Yeah, and again, when you look at going for lending, the banks are doing stress tests.
Yeah,
like we're quite vigorous. So knowing where I sat within those stress tests gave me a good indication of what I could sort of weather and that. But yeah, rents go up. That covered a lot. I think I weathered that pretty well. For a lot of people, it was quite hard. I know a lot of people that couldn't keep up with the interest rates. But yeah, that's all part of it. And I know you're doing your podcast series of the Design Your Decade. So I feel like I've just been through that first decade. I've got a lot of learning experience. I've had growth in the market. So now I'm planning the next 10 years.
Because now you've got a rock solid foundation where even if we totally botched up the next couple of purchases, it won't hurt, right? But it will be more of an inconvenience than anything else. And the key is, of course, is, and when we have our reviews, I'm constantly slowing you down, right? Because you want to go faster.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm saying, no, let's take a step at a time. Because what happens is that when you go through this phase of growth and you've got good growth behind you, you've got a good portfolio behind you, you tend to feel that you're bulletproof, right? But one wrong step could unravel all the good work you've done. So we need to actually slow down in the middle phases of the portfolio. Whereas in the starting phase, we need to be absolutely accelerating so that we're getting a lot more assets under our belt. Middle phase is slowing down, and then the tail end of the phase, you perhaps speeding up to pay things down, right? So for you in your journey, where are we sitting in terms of, are we in the pay down phase? Are we still flipping between accumulation? What's the thought process?
I think it's a bit of a hybrid. I mean, I started, well, the first property I bought, I think it was about in my 20s, but then I started actually investing in property with a strategy in place in my 30s. So I've had that 10 years from 30 to 40. I'm 41 now. From 41 to, well, from 40 to 50, my age group now, the next 10 years, I want to really accumulate, build up a good, solid foundation for retirement. So try to accumulate more properties, like you said, a commercial property, try to build up my wealth. And then hopefully by 50, have the opportunity to take a bit of a step back from work if I wanted to. Good chance I'm probably going to continue to work up until 60. But I think having the choice to choose whether you work or not is very, very powerful thing. To say, you know what, this is too hard, too stressful. Like you mentioned, I've got a young family now. So in 10 years time, I'm going to have a 13 and 11-year-old. That's a good age where I could take a step back, do some traveling, spend some time with the kids. But then, probably do another decade between 50 and 60 as well, where I'll start to sell things off and get everything tidied up.
That's after consultation with the financial planners and the accountants, which we're starting to put that in place now in terms of asking the right questions, looking at it from a forward view rather than, okay, I've got this, what's my next purchase? We're looking at it from a portfolio view of saying, I've got this portfolio, where does it end up in 10 years time, right? So we're planning the next 10 years now in terms of your designing a decade. If two questions, right? Two-pronged question. What would you tell your 30-year self if you went back there? What would you say to yourself?
It's hard now, but just stick with it. It's the reward you get on the other end is great. Like my wife and I, we are so fortunate to be in the position we're in. We're in a beautiful house. We've got 2 beautiful kids. We do have a very good financial base that only with time is going to get even better. So having some meetings with the financial advisors, accountants to see projecting what looks like the next 10 years and next 20 years just puts a big smile on our face. Working up until, mid 60s where you're forced to work never really appealed to me. I just hated the fact of, I'm going to be forced to work. But now I see, hey, look, I'm going to be at a stage where I can actually take a step back and be like, you know what, I'm going to take a year off. Having skills as a trainer, I could always, take a year or 2 or 5 off and then go, you know what, I'm going to, like, the kids are starting to leave home or doing their own thing, might get back into the workforce, but just having the option.
The flexibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it was. When I started my investment journey, I think you'll probably laugh. You'll probably remember. You're like, what are your goals? And I'm like, I want a Lamborghini.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I think the Lamborghini is always that pinnacle of the car of financial success.
Yes. Yeah, you equate that to financial success.
Yeah, but like as time goes on and you start investing more and more and educating yourself, you realize the Lamborghini is not really the pinnacle of financial success. It's having the flexibility to be able to whether you work or not. Like, if I sold down all my properties, which I won't because then I'll lose the capital growth over the next 10, 20 years, I could probably be in that position to achieve that goal. So to me, just the thought of that is I'm already winning.
It's having the knowledge that you've got the ability to do it as opposed to speculating, right? Because these are hardcore numbers. Yeah. So if our audience, people that are just starting, what advice would you give them?
Without trying to sound cliche, go see some professionals. Have an idea. Definitely have an idea of what you want your end goal to be. Mine's changed along the way. Like I said, went from the Lamborghini, but now having a family and settling down, I'm more looking at retirement. Okay, what can I do with my assets to be able to not just supplement my income, but surplus it. So I'm making more money there and retirement. But yeah, go talk to some professionals that have done it. Get some advice on people that have actually been there, done it. It's probably the best thing, and go from there. Have an understanding of what you want. Some people just want to buy a property to be able to purchase their own personal place because they don't have a large enough deposit.
Yep.
So everyone's
different, isn't it? Yeah, you gotta be buying the portfolio and building the portfolio towards your goal, right?
Exactly. So have a goal. Have a goal, and then sit down because it is achievable of how aggressive you want to be. I was pretty aggressive, which took on risk that I was happy to take on because I
you were single back then.
I was single back then. Yeah. Now I've got my wife, so I've also got her income coming in, and we can start building basically like our second decade we're doing together.
Yeah. Which is a really good journey, right? So for someone, and you having held properties for 10 years plus, you've gone through the negative cash flows of the middle part of this first initial cache of properties. For someone that's got a couple of properties in there at the moment, really questioning the negative cash flow of the portfolio, are there any life experiences that you can share that could help them?
Negative cash flow is just a point in time. To me, that's how I saw it. Back then, I was pretty good with the way we structured our portfolio and the price points and the rent and the yields that it didn't have too much of an effect on my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things we first discussed was I don't want it to affect my life. I want to be able to still, being quite young, wanting to travel and have life experiences. And I got all that. I backpacked around Europe. I even went over and became a water sports instructor in the States at one of those summer camps. So I've had some good life experiences I had property back then too. People said I couldn't do it. I've got a house. How do you do that? And I made it happen.
It's finding the want, isn't it? You wanted to do this, and so how it appeared.
Yeah. So negative cash flow, if you can weather the storm, so to say, for negative cash flow, it does pay dividends on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's whether you invest the money into the negative cash flow to get the growth is going to be more than what you lose in that negative cash flow in the long term. So try to plan for that if you can. Have those buffers in place. If I got in trouble, I could always sell a property, which I did at the time.
Yeah, fantastic. Luke, thank you for sharing your journey. It's really inspiring for me because we've done our job right if you're sitting here and sharing your story. And certainly it wasn't one without battle scars, and kudos to you, you stuck it through and were able to come at the other end where now we are cruising and we really got a lot of optionality open to us.
It's funny reflecting back now. There were a couple of little tough times in there that I was losing sleep, but being through that, when I have things pop up now, it's just, I don't lose sleep over it. I'm just like, yep, I know what to do. Yep, we'll do this. It's not worth losing sleep over, and having gone through, I guess, the trenches, I can sleep comfortably at night now, and nothing really phases me with the properties because I've been through it. I know what to do. I know what to look for. I know what mistakes to avoid. It's quite a calming experience at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it. These are client stories. This is Property Investing Insights. And if you're new to the podcast, like or subscribe, depending on which platform you're listening to. And don't keep us a secret. Share this amongst your friends and share Luke's story and share the other client stories, because it's through these stories that you can help your friends and family to understand that this is actually really simple. If you actually took to heart that it's a methodical approach and putting your thought process more in line with what's achievable as opposed to what you're seeing on Facebook and YouTube. And I get the irony, you're watching this on YouTube. Until next time, stay safe.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.